The bus is 7 minutes late, and my thumb is too cold to swipe my phone screen, right? I bang my fist against my thigh to get feeling back into it. I check the app again. Delayed, delayed again. I mutter that this has to be the coldest winter I can remember. And somewhere behind that thought, before I even finish it, the world goes white. Not everything turns white the way a blizzard turns things white. White like a flash left on too long, then gone. The wind hits me first. It comes from every direction at once, and it isn't December at a bus stop cold. This has weight. This has teeth. There's no bus stop anymore. No road, no glow of streetlights bleeding into low clouds. Just flat white ground running out toward nothing. Snow moving sideways in ropes, and a gray sky sitting so low, it feels like a lid someone put on the world. My phone is still in my pocket. I dig it out with fingers that don't want to bend. No signal, no bars, not even the little no service mark, just black, like it's never worked a day in its life. That's the moment it actually lands. Not the cold, the phone. I turn in a slow circle, the wind turns with me, always in my face no matter which way I face it, and I understand, not in words, more like something cold dropping behind my ribs, that wherever here is, nobody is coming to get me. How long can a person actually last dressed like this? I don't know the number. I just know my body is already answering the question for me 1 degree at a time. I start walking because standing still feels like dying with extra steps. My sneakers are useless within 100 meters. The snow isn't soft, it's crusted and sharp, and it cuts through canvas like it's got an opinion about it. My jeans go stiff at the knees. I keep one hand cupped over my mouth just to breathe air that doesn't feel like knives. I try shouting once. The wind takes it and gives nothing back. Then I see it. Dark shapes on the white, low to the ground, moving not one shape. 6 or 7. And behind them, something huge and unmoving. A mound with curved white lines rising off it that I don't understand yet. Not until I get close enough to realize the curved white lines are tusks, the length of my whole body. A mammoth. Down. Dead. And people, actual people, wrapped in fur from head to foot, faces barely visible in the wrapping, cutting into it with stone. I don't decide to run toward them. My legs just do it, because they are the only warm-blooded things I've seen in an hour of endless white. One of them sees me first. A shout goes up, short and sharp, and every knife stops. I put my hands up. It's the only language I've got that might translate. They don't lower their tools. A man steps forward, older, deep lines around his eyes, a necklace of curved teeth around his neck that I'll later understand means something about who gets to decide things here. And he says something to me in a language that isn't anything, isn't Latin-rooted, isn't anything my ears have a shape for. I say I'm lost out loud, uselessly, my voice cracking on the second word because my throat is already raw from the cold. He doesn't understand me, but he understands the way I say it. That's the first thing I learn here. You can't fake the sound of someone who is actually about to die of exposure. They don't kill me. They also don't exactly welcome me. A woman near the mammoth barks something at the old man, gesturing at my thin coat, my soaked jeans, my sneakers falling apart at the seams, like she's cataloging everything wrong with me in one sweep. Someone throws a hide at my chest, not gently. It hits me and I nearly go down. Wear it, the gesture says, or die where we can see you and waste our afternoon. I wear it. The camp isn't far, a cluster of low-domed shelters built from bent bone and hide, tucked into the lee side of a ridge where the wind can't get a straight run at them. Smoke rises from one gap at the top of each one. I don't know yet that the placement of that camp angled exactly against the prevailing wind, tucked below the ridgeline instead of on top of it where it would look more defensible, is the difference between everyone here surviving winter and everyone here not surviving winter. Nobody built it this way by accident. Somebody figured this out once, a very long time before me, and everyone since has just copied the answer. Inside, it's dim and it smells like fat and wood smoke and wet fur, and for the first time since the bus stop, I'm not shaking. A girl, maybe 10, sits near the fire pushing a bone needle through 2 pieces of hide over and over in stitches, so even they look machine-made. I watch her hands longer than I mean to. She catches me watching and holds the needle up like she's showing off, then goes right back to it, unbothered. Because apparently, a stranger from nowhere appearing out of a whiteout isn't even the most interesting thing that's happened to her this week. Nobody explains anything to me. Nobody has time to. I'm handed a strip of meat, dark and half frozen, pulled from a pit dug into the permafrost outside, their freezer. I realized later, no lid needed, the ground itself doing the job all winter long without anyone tending it. I try to eat it too fast and nearly choke, and the old man with the tooth necklace actually laughs. The first sound anyone here has made that isn't sharp. I sleep that first night sitting up, too wired to lie down, listening to the wind fail to get through walls made of animal bone. I keep waiting to wake up back at the bus stop. I don't. 2 days pass, and I learn by getting things wrong. I try to help scrape a hide and take too much off in one place, and a woman takes the scraper back out of my hands without a word, her face doing all the talking. I try to warm my hands directly over the main fire and get pulled back by the wrist. Before I understand, there's a smaller, cooler fire kept specifically for hands and children and anyone the size of useless that I currently am. I try to sleep near the entrance because it's closest and get shoved gently but firmly toward the back, where the older woman with the sharp glare already sleeps. Because apparently there's an order to who sleeps where that has to do with keeping the coldest spot occupied by whoever's toughest, not whoever's newest. Every mistake teaches me the shape of a rule nobody says out loud. On the 4th day, 3 men start lashing long poles together near the edge of camp, and I follow because following is currently my entire skill set. They're building something low and fanned out, like a funnel made of stakes and hide scraps tied to shiver in the wind, narrowing toward a pit dug at the far end and covered over with brush. I don't understand it until the whole camp fans out across the tundra in a long, loose line, banging stones together, shouting, driving a herd of small deer-like animals ahead of them toward the funnel. I'm shoved into the line without being asked, handed nothing. Just pointed at a gap I'm apparently supposed to fill with noise and my own body. It works exactly like it's supposed to. The animals panic, the funnel narrows their choices down to 1, and half of them go straight into the covered pit at the end. No spears needed until they're already trapped and struggling. I stand there afterward, breathing hard, watching men calmly finish what the funnel started, and I understand for the first time that hunting a mammoth with spears is the dramatic version of what these people do. The pit and the funnel is the version that actually feeds everyone most days, and it's smarter than anything I would have thought to build. That night, there's more meat than the pit outside can hold in one load, and I watch the extra get handled differently. Cut into thin ropes and hung from a frame over a low, smoky fire instead of buried. Smoked, not frozen. Meant to last through a stretch when the ground freezes too hard to dig, or the hunting turns bad for a while. 2 ways to store the same thing, and which one they use depends on how much time they think they've got before they need it again. A few days later, riders, no, not riders, walkers, a different band entirely, maybe 15 of them, appear on the ridge at the edge of camp, and the whole mood changes fast. Spears don't come out, but hands stay near them. The old man walks out alone to meet their old man. They don't speak long. Then, without much ceremony, hides get laid out on the snow, and it isn't a gift exchange. It's something more careful than that. My people's surplus meat and 2 good spear points laid on one side, their people's tightly woven cordage, and a stack of flint nodules laid on the other, everyone eyeing the piles like the exact balance actually matters. Because it does. Nobody writes anything down. Nobody needs to. Both old men just look at the piles, look at each other, and something passes between them that settles it. I ask with gestures whether I can look at the flint. A young man from the other band lets me hold one piece, cold and gray-black and heavier than it looks, and grins at how carefully I turn it over like it might bite me. That evening back in my own camp, the same young man's counterpart from my band, a boy close to my age. It turns out, though, it's hard to tell ages here the way I'm used to telling them, sits me down and starts napping a spear point out of a piece of that traded flint and motions for me to try. My first strike is too hard. The flint doesn't flake, it shatters, and half of it goes flying somewhere into the snow. He doesn't laugh exactly, but his shoulders do something close to it. He hands me another piece and shows me again, slower, striking at an angle instead of straight down, letting the stone do the work instead of my arm. It takes me 11 tries to get one flake that looks like it was made on purpose. He keeps it. Not because it's good, it isn't, but I think because it's mine, and that seems to matter to him more than the quality does. I'm starting to understand that almost nothing here gets explained in words, because words aren't really how anyone learns anything. You watch, you fail in front of everyone, somebody takes the tool out of your hands without a word, and eventually your hands remember what your ears never caught. There's a dispute on the sixth day that teaches me something else. Two men, one of them the one who first threw the hide at my chest, start arguing loudly over a stretch of hide-scraping tools. One accusing the other of taking more than his share after the mammoth kill. Voices rise for a second. I brace for it to turn into a fight the way it would where I'm from. Instead, both men go quiet the second the old man with the tooth necklace steps between them. He doesn't shout. He asks something of each of them, short questions, and lets them answer in front of everyone else in camp, who are all very obviously listening while pretending to be busy with something else. Whatever gets decided, both men nod at it afterwards stiffly and go back to work, like nothing happened. There's no separate room this happens in. No one writes it down. The whole camp is the courtroom, and the verdict has to work in front of everyone, or it doesn't work at all. I start marking the passing days without meaning to, the way I would have counted texts unread on a phone that no longer exists. I notice the girl with the bone needle does something similar. Small notches along the edge of a flat rib bone. One added each morning near the fire before anyone else is fully awake. And I realize she's not just sewing. She's the one keeping track of how long it's been since the last full moon, which tells the camp roughly how much longer before it's worth breaking down the shelters and following the herds toward the next range. Nobody assigned her that job out loud, as far as I can tell. She just does it. And everyone trusts the count, because it's always been right before. Her count runs out on the 8th day, and by mid-morning the whole camp is taking itself apart around me. I expect chaos. It isn't. Everyone already knows their piece of it. The shelter poles come down and get lashed into long, low sledges, the bent bone frames doubling as runners once the hide covers are stripped off and folded. The heaviest loads. Meat hides. The fire-making kit wrapped tight against damp. Go on first, packed low and centered. And I watch a man redo another man's load twice before he's satisfied with how it sits, muttering the whole time in a tone I recognize instantly even without the words, because it's the exact tone of somebody repacking a car trunk that a kid already loaded wrong. I get handed a length of braided cordage, the same kind traded for a few days earlier, and pointed at the front of a loaded sledge. No instructions beyond that. I brace it over one shoulder the way I'd carry a bag, and I get about 10 steps before the older woman, with the sharp glare, grabs the cord out of my hands and repositions it low across my hips instead, closer to where my legs actually generate power. The sledge moves easier immediately. I feel stupid and grateful in the same breath. The line stretches out across the white for most of the day, oldest and youngest riding on the lighter sledges, everyone else hauling or walking, the whole group moving at the pace of whoever's slowest without anyone saying so out loud. Nobody sprints ahead. Nobody gets left trailing behind either. I ask myself, hauling my share until my shoulders burn, how a group survives a place this empty for this long, and I already know the answer is sitting all around me. Not by being tough one at a time, but by never letting anyone fall out of the line. We make camp again before dark against another ridge, and the whole shelter-building process runs in reverse. Fast, everyone finding their piece of it without being told. My piece this time is holding a frame steady while the boy who taught me to nap flint lashes it. It isn't much, but it's the first time since the bus stop that somebody handed me a job assuming I'd get it right instead of assuming I'd get it wrong. On the 9th night, the wind changes. I notice it before anyone tells me to notice it. The low clouds pull back for an hour, stars come out hard and close, and the air goes still in a way that feels wrong instead of calming, a stillness with something behind it. I've seen this before, not here, but on a screen, half watching a weather report on a bus once, a meteorologist saying that calm before a big system moving in usually means it's about to get much worse, not that it's clearing up. I try to say this. I don't have the words. So I point at the sky, then mime a huge sweeping motion with both arms, then point at the shelters, then cross my arms hard over my chest and shiver on purpose, exaggerated. A bad game of charades with my life and everyone else's as the stakes. The old man watches me do this twice. Then he looks up at the still sky himself, at the stars too sharp and too close, and something shifts in his face. He starts shouting orders. Furs get pulled tighter over the shelter frames. The fire pit gets banked lower and covered. The girl with the bone needle is handed inside first, then the older woman, then everyone else. Fast. No wasted movement, like they've done this before and just needed one more reason to believe it was coming this time. I grabbed the boy who taught me to nap flint and point hard toward the funnel trap at the edge of camp, still half built, stakes still loose in the ground. If the wind gets under those loose poles, they could tear free and take a chunk of a shelter wall with them. He gets it faster than I expected, and the two of us run out together, lashing down what we can with cold, numb hands while the sky finishes going the color of a bruise. The storm hits maybe 40 minutes later. It's worse than the one that swallowed me at the bus stop. I hear it tearing at the hide walls all night, and I lie there between bodies that smell like smoke and animal fat. Listening to it, fail to get in. In the morning, the sky is a flat, scoured blue, and everything outside is buried to knee height in fresh snow. Nobody died. Nobody even got hurt. The funnel trap held. The old man finds me outside, digging out the entrance with a bone shovel because it's the only useful thing I know how to do here. He doesn't say anything at first. He just touches 2 fingers to his own chest, then points them at me, then does something with his hand that I'll spend the next few days figuring out means something closer to, "You saw it before we did, then thank you?" That afternoon, the girl teaches me to hold the bone needle properly. My stitches come out crooked and too loose, and she laughs at them. But she doesn't take the needle back. She lets me keep trying, the same way the boy let me keep trying with the flint, the same way the whole camp has let me keep trying at everything since the moment they didn't leave me in the snow. That evening, for the first time, nobody pulls me back toward the small fire. I almost sit there out of habit, and the old man with the tooth necklace stops me with a hand on my shoulder, not rough this time, and tips his head toward the main fire instead, where the toughest sleepers and the best hunters and the woman who took the scraper out of my hands are already sitting. There's a gap left in the circle that I don't think is an accident. I sit down in it. Nobody makes a show of it. That's how I know it actually means something. The day something stops being a big deal here is the day you've actually earned it. The boy passes me a piece of meat off his own portion without being asked, the same easy way he handed me flint on the first try. The girl sits close enough on my other side that our shoulders touch, still holding the rib bone she notches every morning, and for a second she lets me hold it too, running my thumb over the small ridges of every day I've survived here so far, more of them than I expected when I count them myself. I think about how many things I never had to earn back where I came from. A seat, a meal, a place to sleep, all of it was just there, quietly paid for by systems I never had to see the inside of. Here. Everything I have, I watched myself get handed to me one failure at a time, and somehow that makes it feel more mine than anything I ever bought with a card that worked with one tap. I sit by the fire that night, the real one, the main one, the one I wasn't tough enough for on the day I stumbled in half frozen, and for the first time since I left a bus stop that I'm starting to think doesn't exist yet or exists 20,000 years from now, or both. I'm not checking anything in my pocket. There's nothing in my pocket to check. I think about how many things I walked past every single day back there without ever once knowing how they worked. Where the heat in my apartment came from, who grew the food, what happens if the trucks stop running for a week. I never had to know, because I never had to build any of it myself, or watch someone else build it, and understand my life depended on getting it right. Here, I've watched exactly how a shelter survives wind, how meat survives a season, how an argument survives without becoming a fight, how a stranger survives long enough to stop being a stranger. None of it was explained to me. All of it was shown to me over and over until my hands finally caught up. The bus is still 7 minutes late, somewhere 20,000 years and one bad snowstorm away. I've stopped waiting on it. The fire in front of me is small, and it is real. And for once in my life, that's actually enough.